and we are going to talk about chapter 11 for a little bit. May not go through the whole chapter today. My goal is to run through it, but we shall see depending on time because I have something else that I want to do toward the end. Okay, back to Zoom. Share screen. As much as I've done this stuff, it's kind of crazy sometimes. Okay, so this fits right in with the activity that we just did. You know, we were talking about how this can kind of lead someone into social skills. When you think of the word social skills, what do you guys think of? Talking. Social skills can be both appropriate and inappropriate, especially with some of the groups that we're going to work with in recreation therapy. You know, we've got a diverse population that we work with. We work with, you know, people with developmental disabilities and autism, and correctional facilities and youth that may be in, you know, kind of the juvenile system. So they're not going to be, you know, they may have all the social skills to carry on a conversation and all, but their social skills may not be appropriate. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But social skills are just how you can be competent with dealing with the people around you and your environment and being able to socialize in an appropriate manner. That's kind of what we're looking at here. So I'm going to try going to a slideshow here, and hopefully it will click through on sometimes this works on Zoom, sometimes it doesn't. If you're watching this Zoom, you may have to follow through behind it, but hopefully this works for you. I'm going to skip this first page because all it is talking about what we are going to kind of cover. No, I'm not going to skip it. We're going to talk about some different views of social competency. We're going to talk about components of social competency and what those components are. Like that will help us define what it's all about. We'll identify the reasons that a lot of individuals have a lack of social skill development, and there's a wide range of reasons there. We'll talk about different populations that we can work with that have a deficit in social skills and need this social skills training. We'll talk about some models of social skills program training. Again, what do we use models for? What do they help us do? Save time. They give us a guide. It's a pre-made something that is generally proven to be effective, that we can just take that. We may have to tweak it, but we can take it and use it, and it saves us all the groundwork of coming up with all this information ourselves. So these models are kind of cumbersome to go through sometimes. Now the ones in this chapter are actually really good. They're numbered out. You'll see as we go through. We can kind of run through them because they have exactly the way that they work. So these are a little easier to follow. And basically what these models are what they're talking about here in the bottom, where you're identifying the considerations for using these packaged social skills training programs, which are basically the models that we'll discuss. So when we think about social competency and how someone, you know, some people are social butterflies. They get along with everybody. They talk to everybody. They're extroverts. Some people are socially awkward. Some people are, you know, it may be because of anxiety. It may be because of something that's happened in their past. You know, we don't really know up front what's going on with everyone that we deal with. But some of the reasons or some of the things that can affect social competency, it can be cognitively based, which is up here. They may not have the cognitive skills to be able to understand what is appropriate and what is not in a social interaction. Sometimes it's behaviorally based, where, you know, I think of like a kid with ADHD that just won't sit still in the classroom, won't listen. My 4-year-old this morning, when I was trying to get him ready and get him next door, he was having some behaviorally based social competency issues this morning that we had to address, but we got those straightened out. It worked out okay. Performance-based, also a combination of all of these, and then you want to look at trying to reach mastery, where through helping our clients, we want them to get to the mastery stage where they are socially competent. That's kind of our goal. So, some components of social competency. Now this reads basically like a sentence going down. They're going to possess a variety of knowledges and behaviors that can be utilized and displayed when and where necessary. That's important. Think about that. When and where necessary, because where you are, who you're around, I've talked about people with traumatic brain injuries not having that filter and, maybe laughing at a funeral or at a totally inappropriate time or being aggressive, things like that. When and where necessary. So, variety of knowledges and behaviors utilized and displayed when and where necessary to engage in meaningful and reciprocal social exchanges. Now, the two words that I pick up here that are good are meaningful and reciprocal. So, what does reciprocal mean to you guys? Like give and take. It's when you think of being social, you are giving and you are receiving social interactions. And these reciprocal social exchanges are going to result in the person being deemed as being socially competent, or at least not socially incompetent. That's kind of the goal and where we want to get. And the ones that are socially incompetent, that's what we're going to talk about, some of these models that can be used to help to get them where they need to be. This kind of thing takes time. This isn't an overnight, a one time, one event isn't going to fix things for everyone, that's for sure. So, reasons for a lack of social skills can be lack of social skills in general. So, some people haven't had the opportunity, okay, I always talk about my kids. I'm sorry. I'm kind of proud of them. I like them okay. I still think I'm going to keep them. But they are, my 4-year-old, he has yet to go to pre-K or school. He has primarily been with my mother and father during the day while we're at work. So, how do you think his social skills are when he gets around a bunch of kids? Wild. I'm talking about he doesn't know what to do. He's so excited that you can't tell him anything. You have to pull him to the side and say, okay, throttle down, bud. Get him. But it's all because he doesn't have this, he hasn't had the experiences to help him gain these social skills. Not that he can't do it. He just hasn't been exposed to enough kids his age and things. And then you throw in COVID, which locks everybody down for a year. Gosh, I'm losing my social skills. I'm not seeing people in my family that I used to see all the time. Sometimes it can be due to inadequate friendship or participation patterns. Someone they may be an introvert. They may be kind of like agoraphobic. What does that mean? Fear of getting out, fear of certain situations, fear of being, they may be scared they're going to have a panic attack and don't want to get around people. So they may not have a lot of friends. They may not participate in many things. When you're not doing those things, then you're not going to build social skills. Inadequate life adjustment. What sort of things would we have that could affect us and make us have trouble adjusting socially?
Hormones?
Hmm?
Hormones?
I couldn't hear you.
Hormones?
Hormones? Possibly. Yeah, I've seen that situation before. Let's say, okay, how many people have seen this? Like you, I don't know, there's a breakup. You have this bad breakup and you're like, I'm never going to trust a man again. I've seen it or heard it. That's kind of an inadequate life adjustment right there. You know, it's not really the case. You will get there. But for the moment, you're having an inadequate life adjustment when it comes to social skills. You're not going to want to talk to a guy right now. You're not going to want to be around them. You're not going to trust what they're telling you. You know, they could say, have a nice day, and you'd be like, he hopes I fall down these stairs. You know, so just think about that. That's kind of an example of that. And sometimes have an inadequate school/work adjustment where, you know, that's kind of goes back to like my 4-year-old. When he comes to school for the first time next year, he hasn't had the pre-K. He hasn't been around a bunch of kids. He's had some structure, but not structure like you have in school. So it's going to be a big adjustment for him. So he'll have some social, that's going to be he's smart as a whip. That's where he's going to pick up a lot, is going to be on social skills. That's going to be the number one thing he's going to pick up next year at school. And I'm pretty excited about that. So, who are the people that we will probably be working with, or could potentially be working with, that are have trouble with some of these social skills and social issues? Children without identified disabilities, you know, maybe hyperactive children. They may have disabilities, but they just haven't been identified. You have children with disruptive behavior disorders. Now, we all know this one. Children with autism spectrum disorder and Asperger's syndrome, they're both very similar. One of the number one symptoms of being on the spectrum is that you don't have this social reciprocity where you don't really like eye contact. You want your own space. You don't really necessarily like people hugging you. You don't, you know, all of these things that we deem as being essential social functions are triggers to a lot of these patients. So they would definitely fit in this indicated population. People with schizophrenia, individuals with intellectual disabilities, they just may not have the educational background or the knowledge to be able to, you know, socially participate adequately. Again, traumatic brain injury shows up where, you know, we know that this traumatic brain injury, a lot of time you have injury to certain areas of the brain, and that's going to cause you to have your social skills you may do some wild things at wild times because of damage to your brain that kind of helps to control those things from happening. Young individuals in residential treatment system. Why might they have issues here with social skills? Now, we're talking about well-behaved, but they're young, they're in a residential facility. If they're there, what might the reason be? For the young individuals that are in residential treatment facilities?
Like young as in children, like are truant or juvenile?
Well, yes, it could definitely be that. They could be kind of in the system, juvenile, delinquent sort of situation. They could also be a situation where maybe their family can't care for them and they're going to be put into a treatment, you know, into a center where they have a residential center. So do you think they're going to miss their family? Do you think they're going to withdraw? Would that affect your social interactions and how you wanted to socially interact? Absolutely. Yeah, they fit. Yeah, I'm on my own. I'm worried about me. You know, you kind of lose trust in a lot of people because here you are in a situation that you probably never saw yourself being in. Okay. And then here we go. This is what Ann was kind of discussing a second ago. Young individuals who possess social skills but use them in violent, antisocial, and destructive ways. They need redirection. They need replacement activities. They need consequences to help them understand. Now, we may not be the ones to provide consequences, but something we can do in recreation therapy is we can provide positive reinforcement for good behavior. You know, if you're good all week, you know, if you don't get in any trouble, I'll take you to get some ice cream. It may be that simple. And that may be enough to help them to really start changing their behavior. Now, will they slip? Probably so. But if you start just chipping away at it, eventually they will make a lot of positive change. So there's some different dimensions of social skills. Peer relation skills, you know, that's where how we deal with our peers. You know, that would be you guys. How do you socially interact with the rest of your classmates and the rest of the college students, basically? Self-management skills, you know, how do you prioritize social skills and social time for yourself? You know, academic skills, they play into it because education, a low educational level, is going to correlate with a lot of times ineffective social skills. Compliance skills, my 4-year-old this morning, he had trouble with this. He would not listen to anything I was saying. He was very non-compliant. That's choice usually. This is people that want to be disruptive, that don't want to help the situation, don't want to be positively social, okay? And then assertion skills. As we know, some people are far more assertive than others. Who feels like they're an assertive person? I knew you were going to raise your hand. Just from the little bit that I mean, I can see that, and that's good. Some people are part of that is innate, some of that is learned, some of that it comes from your environment and what you've been around. But you can assert yourself in a positive manner or a negative manner. And the way you choose to assert yourself, that plays into your social skills. If you are asserting yourself positively to help the group, to try to help someone, to try to lead someone in the right path by being assertive, absolutely, that is wonderful social skills. If you are being a total dictator, you know, talking down on people, at the same time you're being assertive, that is not a very good indicator of appropriate social skills. Y'all good on this one? Any questions or anything so far? I'm trying to kind of shoot through this because, number one, the semester's kind of short and we're trying to get through a lot of stuff, and I want to watch at least one video before we get out of here. Okay. So there's some models of social skills training. I told you that we had these. The first one we'll talk about is Elliott and Gresham's model. I'm sorry, I meant to memorize this morning, but I didn't get around to it. I was being social. So instead, I'm just going to use this as a guide to talk to you. But if you notice on this one, if you take the first letter from each word, it says date. So that's kind of, you know, a lot of times that's helpful to me to help me remember things when you can pick out things like that. When you are trying to help someone and train them in a social skills situation, you need to define what you consider to be social skills for that population or appropriate social skills. Then you need to assess where they are on the continuum of, are they appropriate? Are they inappropriate? How much help are they going to need? We know that assessment is the key to finding out where we need to go from there, period. At that point, then we're going to teach / implement, if you want to go with the API thing that we always use. You're going to teach, implement, make your, try to make your changes, and then you're going to evaluate, whether or not it was effective. So you establish the need for performing the behavior. You identify behavioral components by doing a skill or performing a task analysis. Does anybody remember what a task analysis is? I think I used like brushing your teeth when we were talking about this.
Breaking everything down.
Really breaking things down into steps and pieces. And the reason you do that is because you want to be sure that the person that you are working with is capable of doing each step that is necessary when you break down a task into component parts. If you, if they're able to do most of them, but not all, they may need some assistance in that area where they're not individually able to do that without assistance. So remember that. At that point, once you've done your task analysis, you can model the behavior, either yourself or by having someone else model it live, or you can use film procedures that have symbolic modeling or coaching of the behavior. Then you provide behavior rehearsal and response feedback. So you want to, at that point, you're going to say, all right, now I want you to try this. I want you to do this. And they're going to do the activity, the social skill that you want to see. At that point, you're able to give them feedback. When we give them feedback, what we need to remember as recreation therapists is that, yes, we're their favorites. They love us. But you know why? Because we care about them. So if our feedback is, you can do better, that's what it needs to be. Sometimes we have to kind of be the bad guy. Not in a mean way, in a supportive way. Say, look, let's try this one more time. Maybe try adding this step. I know you can do this a little better. I want to see it. And then when they do it a little better, then you give them their props. Now you're at the top of their list again, even though you just told them, hey, you just screwed that up. You kind of fixed it by letting them correct it, and then you give them that praise that everybody kind of likes to get. And then something that we always like to do, we talk about when we do behaviors, and we do the what, so what, now what. When you get to the now what part, what are we doing? We're generalizing what we've done, what the activity is, what we've talked about, what we've trained on to other settings and with other people. So when you're not with me, you can do this same thing and it should be effective in the same way as it was with me. So remember that. This doesn't just work with me when we're sitting here in this room with me and you. Generalize it where they take it with them and use it in other places. All right, here's another model, and you notice that I'm not even really naming the names because I don't think you're going to remember them. I want you to get the gist and the overall feel of what these models are. Now, these are ones that they're in the book. You can look them up. You can find these particular ones, but these are all pretty good. Like I say, I like that they're numbered. They're easy to follow. Number one, in this one, you assess relevant behaviors. Now, obviously, we're talking about behaviors that are going to be dealing with social skills, whether they're being appropriate, whether they're being antisocial, whether they're being overly assertive, things like that. Again, once we've done an assessment, if we're following the API process, after assessment comes planning. And when we get to planning, we do goals and objectives. So on this one, it just jumps straight into objectives. Once you've assessed what needs to be addressed, then you're going to jump into long-term and short-term objectives. Now, long-term can be a little bit more, not a stretch, a little tougher because you've got time to get there. And your short-term objectives, just like in, when we do goals and objectives, your short-term objectives are going to help you reach stepping stones to get up there and reach your long-term objectives. That's the key on this one. At that point, you're going to develop and write an instructional plan. You're going to come up with measurement procedures. What that does is allow you to see whether or not what you're doing is effective. At that point, once you're figuring out how you're going to determine, this is basically coming up with evaluation procedures. Without that, you won't know whether or not you have been effective with what you've done. So then you implement the instructional plan and the measurement procedures and see whether you were effective with your intervention. Because you have measurement procedures, you can see that. And then based on what you come up with, you modify the plan to make it easier, harder, change strategies. If it didn't work, should we just start over and try again? I wouldn't think so. I think the best bet would be to, tweak what you're doing, because you see at that point you've learned kind of what's tripping you up or what is tripping them up on this. You can tweak what you're doing and help them to find success, and then evaluate the overall progress. So that's the next one. Then there's Stevens' model. Let me see where we are. I don't want to run out of time on this. In this model, you're going to define a social skill objective, a particular social skill that you want to work on. It may be eye contact. It may be keeping appropriate distance in conversation. When I worked at NMRC and I was working with developmental disability patients, a lot of them, now the ones who had autism, they did not have an issue with this. They did not come and get in your face. That's not what they want. They don't want eye contact, and they don't want to be in your personal space and don't want you to be in theirs. Now, the others, some with, say, Down syndrome, and they have no concept of personal space whatsoever. So that's a social skill. You need to work with them on appropriate, spacing during interaction. So that might be your skill objective. So you assess the level of skill, either in a natural or contrived situation. I like natural the best because you get to see how they're going to act when they don't know anybody's even paying attention or watching. People are going to be more natural then for sure. If the learner has mastered the skill, move to the next skill. If not, move to a 3-stage intervention. And this intervention down here is 3 stages where you select a teaching strategy, and it's going to include social modeling. So what is modeling? Demonstrating. Yes, you're either going to do it yourself, or you can even say, look at Tom over there. You see what he's doing? This is what I want to see. So they need to see it, because a lot of people, that's the way they learn the best, is by actually seeing visually what is expected. At that point, then it's easier for them to, it's a lot easier than to say, I want you to stay at least 3 feet away during conversation. They might not understand what 3 feet is. During this COVID time, I guess I should have made that 6 feet, right? So social reinforcement, that is where I was talking about, if you are being appropriate socially, then I'm going to give you praise, or I'm going to give you some sort of reinforcement for continued success on what you're doing. Or contingency contracting. That's basically saying, if you do this, you will receive this. It's almost like a bribe. It's kind of a dirty word, kind of sounds that way, but you're basically bribing them to do better. There's a contingency. They know if they do better and they do what you're asking them to do, that they're going to receive a reward of some sort. So you're kind of making a contract with them where you agree. Now, if you're going to use that strategy, be sure that you stand up on your end and do it. The worst thing you could do is say, if you're good all week, I'm taking you to the movie Friday. And then something comes up Friday and man, it just doesn't look good for my schedule. Yes, it does. If you want this to work, you stick with it and you do what you tell them you're going to do. Now, at this point, you've seen really where you are, what needs to happen, what needs to change. At this point, I want you to implement your teaching strategy. After that, you're going to reassess their skill level and see where they are. All right, I'm going to make a note right here because I really want to show you guys something else. I'm going to make a note here and we will come back to this and start here next time, okay? But what we're going to do, and I'm going to give some positive reinforcement to Miss Kelly here. I haven't had a chance to watch many of the videos, but I want you to watch her video. You've been through this before, so I know that you're ready for this. So let me stop the screen share and see if I can find where I was looking for here. And that is not it. And here we are. Uh-oh, I need to screen share again. All right, I'm hoping when this starts that there will be some sort of miracle and the sound will come out of the speakers because for some reason it stopped. Otherwise, I'll turn it up as loud as I can. You guys try to listen, okay, as much as you can, and I will open these doors where the sound can bounce out if it's coming from here. But let's go here.
Hey everyone, my name is Kelly, and on the video today, I will be videoing Miss Jackie, who has dental tremors. And so for those who don't know what that is, it's a nervous system disorder that.
Can y'all hear that at all? Can you in the back? I mean, it's.
See what the system volume is down there at the bottom.
Let me try this one more time.
Is there a volume control up on your
Uncontrollable tremors and shaking.
Boom.
And
I'll turn it down in a second.
Hey everyone, my name is Kelly, and for my recreational therapy video today, I will be videoing Miss Jackie, who has essential tremors. And so for those who don't know what that is, it's a nervous system disorder that affects your hands and causes like.
I was not touching anything when that happened, by the way. Just to clarify that.
You won't go in the evaluation.
Let me let this load for just a moment and maybe it'll actually keep up. I will brag on her. Now she had a little bit of an advantage on this because she was in my 473 class and we did something very similar in that class. So she's already done the video thing. We did a recreational therapy activity and basically this same thing. And I don't mind doing it more than once because I think this is a very good practice for you guys. I think it's kind of fun. And yes, my plan is to watch everybody's videos in here. So you're gonna see this one, and I'm gonna brag on you, okay? She did this basically exactly the way I wanted it done. If yours was not done this way and you get to thinking about it, if you want to resubmit something, you can do that. I will take it into consideration. But you can look at this and this gives you a good idea of exactly kind of the way I wanted it to go. And our volume is just trying to mess with us big time.
Hey everyone, my name is Kelly, and for my recreational therapy video today, I will be videoing Miss Jackie, who has essential tremors. And so for those who don't know what that is, it's a nervous system disorder that affects your hands and causes like uncontrollable tremors and shaking. And hers is mainly in her right hand, which she's dominant in. So it really has taken a toll on her life the past couple of years as it's gotten progressively worse. She said that typically her leisure and recreation time is spent doing arts and crafts, painting, sewing, and things like that. But since it has gotten worse, she said that that's typically something that she steers away from now because she doesn't want to mess up whatever she's working on and things like that. And so I feel like trying to find an art and a craft that she can do that will build her self-efficacy and confidence will be very beneficial to her. It will also work on her fine motor skills that she needs to, use every day to write checks, to write anything, to eat using utensils, things like that, even tying shoes. And so this is something that's really, like I said, taken a toll on her life the past 3 or 4 years because it has gotten a lot worse. But recreational therapy will be beneficial to her because I think it's going to provide her with a big confidence booster and show her that she is capable of doing things that she has always loved to do, maybe just with adaptations and things like that. So I'm going to brief her about the activity that we're doing and show y'all. She decided to make an Easter door hanger, and so I'm going to show you how we're going to do that and what we're going to use, and I will brief her about what we're doing and then show the activity and then debrief at the end. Hey everyone, with me today I have Miss Jackie, and she's getting ready to start the first few sets of her recreational activity. And so what she's making is we're going to paint this white, kind of like this one, and make a door hanger. That one's a little difficult. Something kind of like this. I think hers says happy spring here, something like that. And so Miss Jackie, do you know what we're doing today? She's doing this to help her. It's something that she enjoys doing, and also it's going to help her fine motor skills while she paints. We also have the lettering stencils that we have to peel off, so that's something that's very fine attention to detail. I've got a video of her doing this with, and that's what I'm kind of talking to you about this, briefing you about what we're going to be doing and why we're doing it, and how it's going to help you, but something that you're also doing, right? Yes. So she's going to go ahead and start painting. She just has a regular paintbrush, kind of a thicker handle, so it's easier for the hold, and just write paint.
Y'all gonna be amazed in a second. She's like the fastest painter ever. Watch this.
It'll be like a 30-minute video, but it's
I didn't realize it at first when I was watching this. I was like, man, she's in a hurry to get this done.
So we've got our board painted and we've peeled from the original first layer off. Just wanted to show a little bit of detail about what she's in right now. She is using this little picker thing to get the lettering out. Just showing y'all how tedious that it can be and that,
fine motor right
and
there,
showing
y'all.
that something that is she's learning to just roll with, and we're still doing just fine. So this paper that she just rolled out is transfer paper, and she's gonna basically take what on this paper and let it face down, press it down really good, and it transfers onto the other paper, which we'll put on the board. So she knows more about this than I do, but like I said, we're just something that she's enjoying and she's able to do at our facility. So what we're working on now is pulling the original paper off of the lettering or this stickering onto the transfer paper, and from there we'll be able to put it on the board. And so some of them don't come off as easy as others, so we're using this tool to make sure there's no air underneath it, make sure that it comes down perfectly like that would do. Okay, so now she has the first little bit of wetting on the board as she wants it. She's just smoothing it out real quick to make sure that it transfers good on the board. And then here's the easy part, most of the time. And there we go, it is finished. This is her door hanger for outside. And would you say that was challenging for you to be able to do?
Yes,
But it's still something you enjoy doing, right?
yes.
Something that brings you joy and something that you do in your leisure, your free time. But thank you for letting me video you today, Miss Jackie. I've enjoyed this, and I hope that you continue to do arts and crafts and things that you enjoy. Yeah, thank you. So I think the activity went pretty well. Everything that I told y'all about her, Miss Jackie's condition, that's my mom, and all that is true. And she does love arts and crafts, and we use a Cricut that we already have at our house, and so that's like a kind of fancier machine that you can use to like label and make t-shirts and all kinds of things. And so obviously a facility probably wouldn't have that just on hand. And so I probably could have come up with something a little bit more creative that could actually been done in a like a nursing home or a setting like that. But this was something that I know that she enjoys and that she loves doing. And so yeah, I think that's like the only tip I have for myself is I could have been a little bit more creative, but honestly, I waited till the last minute. And so, yeah. But like I said, arts and crafts for her is like her happy place. And over the years, I've seen her kind of like shy away from that. But I think it's good to show her that she can still have these things and do things that she loves, even though they may be a little bit more difficult. But I think it will pretty well.
All right, very, very good job. So what do you guys think about that? Did you see all the parts that I was kind of talking about where she went through the briefing? She gave me some introduction about why she's doing what she's doing. She gives her some positivity moving forward on, you know, these are things that you can continue doing. She told us that she was working on fine motor skills, also creativity. So, and if you're doing it with more than one person, you can also play in some socialization in there as well. Now, that being said, you guys, I'm not asking you to redo what you've done. I haven't gotten to watch very many of them. I did have the opportunity to watch hers, and I did that because she'd done this before, so I had a feeling that she would pretty much have what I was asking for. I think some of the instructions were, you know, I thought they were clear, but I think a few people were unclear on exactly what I wanted there. If you saw that and you want to, like I say, you can resubmit, but it needs to be soon, and you need to let me know you're going to do it. Like, if otherwise, I'm going to start grading and putting grades in there, and then once I get a grade, you're not going to see your grade and say, oh, let me redo it. You know, so let me know like immediately if you want to change. Or send me something else. Like I say, I'm not saying that everybody's is bad or everybody's is great because I've seen very few of them. but I just wanted to give you a good indicator of how I wanted it to kind of look and the things that I wanted you to cover, where she did a briefing, did the activity, and then a debriefing at the end. That's kind of the whole key, and that covered the whole situation. She answered those questions that were in the instructions about, what could I have done better? How did it go? Things like that. Any comments, thoughts, questions on today? Okay, so next class, what we're going to do is we're going to finish up chapter 11 and hopefully knock out chapter 12. I'm going to think and look between this whole coronavirus COVID deal is still looming over us, and we had this thing we talked about earlier where we have the final project special event. I don't know whether that's going to be, it's so hard to get a group together in one place and social distance, and they're still wanting us to do all those things. So we may or may not do that project. If not, I'm going to give you guys it's not going to be terrible, some sort of paper that's going to make you think. We may do that as an option instead of that. Just a heads up. I'll give you time to get it done. Otherwise, I will see you guys on Thursday. We'll finish this chapter and hopefully get the next one in. Thank you, guys.